thought about it. Kavanagh grinned. Stupid question from an annoying American. I didn't say that, sir. You didn't look surprised when I recognized you. Then again, you're obviously a man of great self-control. How long have you worked for Oliver York? Martin saw no reason not to answer. I was 20 when Mr. York's grandparents hired me. You're what, a valet? A manservant? Agent Kavanagh, if you have a card with your contact information, I can give it to Mr. York. I don't, in fact. The American smiled. Long story. Martin doubted that. I should get cracking. Enjoy your stay and have a good flight tomorrow. Thanks. He made no move to go on his way. You met a few of my colleagues in November, Agents Yankowski, Sharpe and Donovan. Any contact with them since then? So, Agent Kavanagh knew about the November visit. We exchanged Christmas cards, Martin said, immediately regretting his sarcasm. Kavanagh laughed. A smart-ass under all that English formality, aren't you, Martin? He nodded at the pots. What color amaryllises? Both are blood red. Surprised I know an amaryllis bulb from a tulip bulb, aren't you? In fact, I don't. It says so on the little stick in the dirt. Chuckling to himself, the American resumed course down the lane, back toward the village, away from the church. Martin debated finding out whether Special Agent Kavanagh was booked at the village pub, which also let rooms. Best not, he said under his breath. Restless now and decidedly ill at ease, he set the pots on the low wall in front of the church. He was 63 and in excellent shape, but the pots were heavier than he had anticipated. A short break was in order before he continued on to the farm. He stretched his arms as he walked in the opposite direction of the FBI agent. The lane ended at the entrance to a cemetery, which adjoined the churchyard but was separate from its scatter of gravestones. A breeze stirred, and he noticed the sun, a welcome sight earlier in the day, was giving way to a gray, still dusk. Martin watched a lone bird, he couldn't say what species it was, float above a barren field past the cemetery and disappear over the horizon, as if it wanted to get away from the dead. His imagination, of course. He veered off the paved walk, slowing his pace as he cut down a muddy footpath, past bare-branched trees and more graves. He had grown up in the village and had family buried here, but it wasn't their graves that drew him. He came to a far corner of the cemetery and paused at a low stone wall that bordered the field. He pulled off his cap and felt the breeze in his graying hair as he breathed in the cool air and tried not to let emotion overcome him. Finally, he leaned forward and touched the name carved on a cold gray stone. Priscilla Farley York. He shut his eyes, his fingertips on the letters. He could feel Priscilla's bony, aged hand as she clutched his wrist, and he could see the pain in her dying eyes. She had been frail then, a ghost of the woman who had put him to work. Yet undiminished were the will, the determination, and the faith that had seen her through more than any mother and grandmother should have had to bear. Look after Oliver, won't you, Martin? He's suffered so much. Promise me you'll look after him. Martin hadn't hesitated, although he had known, even then, it wouldn't be an easy promise to keep. He could hear his certainty and sincerity as he answered her. I will look after Oliver, I promise. Priscilla had died a few hours later. The next day, Oliver had dropped out of Oxford. Opening his eyes, Martin touched his fingers to the names on 3 more York gravestones. Nicholas York, Charles York, Deborah Summerhill York. Martin had known them all. Nicholas, Oliver's grandfather, had preceded Priscilla into the grave by 18 months. He loved the Cotswolds. The York farm had been in his family for generations, and he and Priscilla had relished retiring there and turning over their London apartment to Charles, their only son, and Deborah, his lovely wife.